When you have truly defeated a narcissist, not just setting a boundary, not just ending the relationship, but really breaking their ability to use you as supply, the very first and clearest sign is something most people do not expect. It is total silence. I want to be very clear about what this silence means, because it is deeply different from the narcissist's usual patterns of stonewalling, ghosting, or pulling away for a while. This is not the silent treatment used to punish you. This is not the planned absence meant to make you feel anxious and chase after them. This is not even the quiet after a discard while they focus on someone new. This is something else completely. This is the quiet of real defeat, simply because it is so unlike how a narcissist normally acts. Think about how a narcissist usually responds when you have tried to leave before, when you have set boundaries, when you have challenged their control. There is always some kind of reaction. There are hoovering attempts, those tricky efforts to pull you back with promises of change, moments of weakness, or reminders of the good times. There is rage at first, the anger at being challenged, being left, having their control threatened. Or there are smear campaigns, the careful destruction of your name to hurt you for daring to be your own person. A narcissist who has not been truly defeated will engage. They will fight to get control back, fight to get supply back, fight to be the one in charge again. They cannot stand the idea that you have taken yourself out of their reach, so they come after you. They push your buttons. They try to bring back the connection in whatever way they can. But when you have truly defeated them, when you have built such full mental freedom that they understand on some level that their tricks will no longer work, the response is different. It is nothing. No hoovering, no rage, no smear campaign, no attempts to stay in your life through mutual friends, no small hints, no random run-ins, nothing. This silence is the narcissist's clear admission that they have lost access. For someone who has been trained to expect constant manipulation, constant attempts to reach out, constant drama, this silence can actually feel confusing at first. You find yourself waiting for something to happen, expecting the hoovering attempt, getting ready for the smear campaign. But it does not come. That silence shows something important about how a narcissist thinks. The narcissist keeps trying only when they think there is a chance. They try to pull you back when they think there is a weak spot they can use. They get angry when they think their anger will affect you, will make you question yourself, will get the reaction they want. They will either pull you back into defense mode, which brings back contact and gives them supply, or they will punish you in ways that give them a sense of satisfaction. But when none of these plans can work, when the narcissist sees that you are truly gone for good, that your boundaries are solid, that you have reached real lack of care, there is no point in trying anymore. You are no longer a source of supply they can reach. You are not even a source of bad supply through your reaction to their pushing. In mental terms, you have become a closed system that they cannot get into, so they move on to easier sources. Most people do not realize this at first. This is what true defeat looks like from their side. The understanding that you cannot be tricked, cannot be pulled back, cannot be made to react, cannot be used. Once they realize this, the attempts stop because trying no longer helps them. But here is what is important to understand. This silence is also the narcissist protecting themselves. To keep trying with you at this point would be to admit they lost. It would show that they need you more than you need them, that their tricks did not work, that you succeeded in getting free from their hold. The narcissist's ego cannot handle that admission. So instead of continuing to try and facing more rejection, instead of continuing to use tricks and having them fail, instead of getting angry and getting no reaction, they go silent. They disappear from your life as fully as you have disappeared from theirs in a mental way. And this silence often goes beyond just no contact. They stop checking your social media. They stop asking friends about you. They stop setting up situations where you might run into each other, because any of that would show they still care, still pay attention to what you do, still cannot let go. They need to show themselves and others that they are fine, that they have moved on, that you were easy to replace. The silence becomes their way of saving face, of holding on to whatever is left of their inflated self-image. They tell themselves they are not reaching out because they do not care, not because they cannot reach you anymore. That is the story the silence lets them keep. For the person who has reached this level of separation, who has set such strong boundaries that the narcissist has gone quiet, this can actually be the proof you need. Because a narcissist who is still invested, who still thinks they have a way in, who still believes their tricks might work, does not go quiet. They try, they chase, they push. Their silence tells you, you did it. You have created such full separation that there is nothing left for the narcissist to work with. Most people do not realize this at first. You are no longer supply, no longer reachable in any way that helps them. When a narcissist goes truly quiet, it is not because they finally respect your limits. It is because they have seen those limits are unbreakable, and their pride cannot handle being shown that over and over. But the silence, while striking, often comes with something else that is just as telling, something that others in the narcissist's life start to notice and mention. When you have truly defeated a narcissist, when you have removed yourself so fully that they can no longer use you for supply or balance, there is often a clear drop in how well they function, and it becomes hard for them to hide. I want to be clear about what I mean by this because it is not about finding joy in someone else's pain. It is about the mental reality of what happens when a narcissist loses a main source of stability, especially when that source was someone with the depth and strength of a super empath, or someone who was giving important balance to the narcissist's scattered self. Remember what we have talked about regarding how certain people work in the narcissist's mental system. They do not just give validation or attention. They give something more basic. They help calm the narcissist's nervous system. They hold their emotional chaos. They show back a stable sense of self. They provide the mental structure that the narcissist cannot create on their own. When someone removes themselves fully, when they set limits so strong that the narcissist cannot reach them in any way, the narcissist loses an important balancing function. Without that outside balance, their inner instability starts to show in ways that become clear to others. This might show up at work. The narcissist, who always seems so capable, so successful, so in charge, suddenly starts making strange mistakes. Deadlines get missed. Their work quality drops. They get into fights with coworkers or bosses that their usual charm cannot fix. Projects fall apart. Chances for promotion disappear. The professional image they worked so hard to build starts to crack in ways others see and talk about. Other times, it shows up in their relationships. The narcissist goes through new sources of supply faster and faster with less care. At first, they kept some control over how they were seen. Now they are visibly all over the place, starting and ending relationships with high drama, causing scenes, cutting off people they once took time to keep close. The pattern becomes so clear that even people who did not see the narcissist's issues before start to notice. There are also physical signs, weight changes, signs of using substances, unpredictable behavior, mood swings that can no longer be hidden behind the polished front. The narcissist, who always seemed to have everything together, now looks like they are falling apart. And it is clear enough that people around them get worried or uneasy. This drop in functioning happens because you are not just another person in the narcissist's life. You are holding up a key part of their mental structure. You are one of the main supports holding their mental setup together. When you removed yourself fully, when you made yourself completely unavailable, that structure began to fall. The narcissist tries to replace you. Of course, they look for new sources of supply, new people to give them what you gave them. But here is what they find. What you gave them is not easily replaced. Your specific mix of depth, awareness, emotional strength, and ability to handle their issues was rare. The new sources they find either do not have the depth to give the same balancing function, or they are too healthy to put up with the narcissist's behavior long enough to get stuck. So the narcissist stays in a state of constant imbalance that they are less and less able to hide. The act of being together, of being successful, of being admired, this act takes energy and stability they no longer have. Slowly, the curtain falls. What is underneath becomes visible to others. People in the narcissist's life start to sense that something is wrong. They may not fully understand what is happening. They may not connect it to you leaving, but they see the decline. They talk about it with each other. They get worried. They start to question the image the narcissist always showed. This drop in functioning shows something important. You mattered more than the narcissist ever admitted or maybe even knew. This does not mean you were responsible for their well-being. You were not. But because you were doing a huge amount of invisible work that kept their system running, you were taking in their projections, handling their emotions, giving them stability, offering a steady presence that let them function in other parts of life. When you stopped that work, when you stopped doing those things and made yourself fully unavailable, the narcissist had to face their own inner chaos without the shield you gave them. That chaos, which you had been holding back, started to spill into other parts of their life in ways they could not control or hide. This is not about you being responsible for them. It is about recognizing the cost of managing a narcissist's inner world and understanding that when you stop doing that work, the narcissist either has to develop inner resources they never built, which is unlikely without serious help, or they become visibly unstable. The decline others see is the narcissist without the support you provided. It is what they really are when they are not being held together by someone else's huge emotional work. This becomes visible because you have removed yourself so fully that they cannot reach you to get that balancing function back. Their decline serves as proof not just to you, but to others of something the narcissist always denied: that they needed you far more than they ever said, and that you leaving left a gap in their life that they cannot fill. When the person who was holding them together disappears completely, the narcissist does not just lose supply, they lose the structure that was keeping their chaos in check. True defeat is especially striking because it involves such a big change in behavior, one that shows just how fully you have broken the narcissist's ability to keep up their false image in the place where the defeat happened. When you have truly defeated a narcissist, they often leave. Not just the relationship, but the whole situation. They move to a new place, drop their old social circles, cut ties with groups they spent years building, and basically start over somewhere no one knows what happened. This is different from the narcissist's usual way of moving on to new supply in the same place. Normally, the narcissist keeps their territory. They hold on to their friends, their work connections, their social standing. They may replace you with someone new, but they do it within the life they already have, often making sure you know about it. They often put the new person in places meant to make you feel replaced or less important. But when they have been truly defeated, when the fall was seen by others, when their mask slipped in public, when their story could no longer hold, staying in that place becomes impossible. It is because everyone in that space has seen something the narcissist cannot let stay in shared memory. Proof that they are not who they pretended to be. Think about what true defeat means in real terms. It involves the narcissist's tricks being uncovered, their lies being seen, their manipulation becoming clear to people who only ever saw the polished front. Maybe you wrote down their behavior and shared it with certain people. Maybe their mask slipped in a public way that could not be explained. Maybe enough people talked and saw the pattern. Maybe work problems came up that could not be hidden. Whatever the exact reason, the result is the same. The narcissist's carefully built image in that place is broken, and they cannot fix it. Too many people know too much. The mental effort needed to keep up the false self when so many people see the truth becomes too much. And here is what is true. The narcissist's whole identity is built on that false self, on the image they show, on the story they control. When that image is damaged in a place where the story cannot be fixed, the narcissist feels something close to mental collapse. They cannot be who they need to be in that space anymore. Most people do not realize this at first, so they leave. And they do not leave quietly or slowly. They often leave in a dramatic way, cutting ties as they go. They might suddenly move to another city or even another country. They might walk away from jobs they spent years building. They drop entire friend groups, work networks, community groups. They basically burn down their old life and start building a new one somewhere else. This full retreat is the narcissist's way of admitting without saying it, but showing it in action that they cannot keep up their inflated self-image in any place where you exist or where people saw them lose. It means that even the memory of what happened between you makes the place feel wrong to them. It makes the act impossible to keep going. What this shows is that for all the narcissist's talk of being better, for all their ego, for all their seeming confidence, they cannot handle the truth being known. They cannot exist in a place where people have seen behind the mask. Their whole mental setup depends on controlling the story. And when that control is lost in a certain place, they have to leave that place entirely. And this is also different from the usual discard because the narcissist is not leaving from a position of power. They are not moving on to better things while making you feel left behind. They are running from a position of being exposed and defeated. And often this running comes with real and social costs: lost jobs, broken friendships, money lost from moving quickly. The narcissist is willing to take these costs because the alternative, staying in a place where their true nature has been seen, is too painful to bear. And most people do not realize this at first. It is better to start over with nothing somewhere new than to keep existing in a place where the front has fallen apart. And there is something else that often comes with this running, the making of a brand new story for the new place. They show up in their new location with a tale about why they left. A tale that, of course, makes them the victim or the person who grew beyond a limited situation. And most people do not realize at first. They say they needed a new start after a bad situation. They say they were held back by people who felt threatened by their success. The new people in the narcissist's life have no way to question these stories. They see someone who seems confident, successful, charming, someone starting fresh after struggles they describe in ways that get sympathy rather than doubt. The narcissist gets to build their false self again in a place untouched by anyone who knows what really happened. But here is what this running shows to those who understand narcissistic behavior. The narcissist's power was always fake. It depended entirely on controlling information and the story. When you broke that control, when the truth became known to enough people in enough ways that the story could not be fixed, the narcissist had no real resources to fall back on. They had no real relationship strong enough to survive the truth coming out, no real reputation solid enough to handle being seen, no real character strong enough to rebuild from. They only had the act. And when the act became impossible to keep up in that place, they had to run to somewhere they could act again without being challenged. It often looks like a narcissist giving up everything they built rather than face the people who saw them lose. It is not a smart move. It is an admission that their whole identity was a setup that could not handle being seen. But there is another sign of true defeat that comes in through paths you might not expect, and it often catches people off guard, because it comes from sources that were once on the narcissist's side. When you have truly defeated a narcissist, you start to get messages from their followers, their supporters, the people close to them. But the tone and content of these messages is completely different from what you have dealt with before. These are not the usual follower messages meant to make you feel guilty, pull you back, defend the narcissist's actions, or twist your mind about what happened. These are messages of real worry, sometimes almost alarm about the narcissist's mental state and actions. People say they are worried about them, they are not acting like themselves, something is really wrong, and they do not know what to do. Have you noticed how they have been? It is concerning. At first, they say they never fully understood what happened between you two, but now they are seeing things that make them realize something was off. These messages represent a big shift, and that shift is proof of true defeat. Let me explain why. The people in the narcissist circle, their friends, family, co-workers, even their new sources of supply, have usually only seen the controlled version of the narcissist. They have seen the charm, the skill, the carefully kept image, and when you were in the narcissist's life, when you tried to set limits or share concerns, these same people often took the narcissist's side. They believed the lies about you, or they helped the narcissist's behavior, or they just did not believe your side because it did not match the image they had been shown. But when you have truly defeated the narcissist, when you have removed yourself so fully that they have lost a key balancing function, these people start to see behavior they have never seen before. Most people do not realize this at first. The mask is not just slipping. Sometimes it is getting harder and harder for the narcissist to keep it on. And what is under that mask is disturbing enough that people who were once on the narcissist's side are now reaching out to you. They see instability, wild behavior, paranoia, or desperation that seems out of place for the person they thought they knew. They might see the narcissist having emotional breakdowns, making strange choices, saying things that seem out of touch, or doing things that hurt themselves that scare them. This confusion and worry makes them reach out to you, sometimes directly, wanting to understand what happened, because on some level they are starting to see that you leaving was connected to something real, something they are only now beginning to see. They are starting to see that maybe you were not the problem. Maybe the stories they accepted about you were not true. Maybe the person they thought they knew is not who they believed. This reaching out is important for several reasons. First, it shows a crack in the narcissist's controlled story. These people were meant to keep believing that you were the problem, that the narcissist was the victim or the reasonable one. But the narcissist's drop in functioning has become so clear that it is creating doubt in people who never questioned the narcissist's side before. Second, it confirms something important about your role in the narcissist's life. You were giving far more balance than anyone realized, including maybe yourself. People now expressing worry are seeing what the narcissist really is without your calming presence, without the emotional work you did, without the containment you offered for their chaos. Third, it gives a kind of proof you might not have expected to get. For so long, you might have felt twisted around, questioned, dismissed by the very people who are now reaching out with worry. Even if they do not directly say sorry or admit their past role, their messages are an unspoken admission. Something was happening that they did not see, and you leaving showed it. But here is what is important to understand about these messages. You do not have to respond to them. These people are reaching out because they are upset, confused, trying to make sense of what they are seeing. And while there may be part of you that feels proven right, that wants to explain what you went through, that hopes they will finally get it, you do not owe them that explanation. Did these people support the narcissist's behavior, dismiss your concerns, or help push you out? They are waking up now, not because they believed you, but because the proof has become too clear for them to miss. Their awakening is not your job to fix. What they're reaching out confirms is simply this: the narcissist's fall is real, it is visible, and it is worrying enough that people who were once invested in keeping the narcissist's image going are now breaking away to share their worry. This is proof of a defeat so complete that the narcissist can no longer keep up the act, even for their closest supporters. And there is often a certain urgency in these messages that shows how bad the narcissist's fall is. They are not just casually asking how things are. They are scared, confused, sometimes asking for your help in handling the narcissist's problems. They hope you will come back, give advice, provide the stable presence the narcissist has lost. But this hope shows they do not really understand what happened. You did not leave because of a simple problem that can be fixed. Staying was breaking you, and the narcissist's fall in your absence is not proof that you should go back. It is proof of how much of yourself you gave up to keep them going. When the people who defended the narcissist start reaching out with worry about the narcissist's mental state, it is not an invitation to return. It is proof that you were right to leave, a defeat that is especially rare, one that shows a big change in the narcissist's usual way of defending themselves. In rare cases, when you have truly defeated a narcissist, they come up with a new public story that comes surprisingly close to the truth. A story that would require a level of self-reflection most narcissists never reach, but something that admits loss, harm, and personal fault in ways they usually never do. This shows up in social media posts, in talks with people you both know, or in how they generally present what happened. And the change in story is striking because it is so different from the narcissist's usual patterns. Usually, the narcissist builds detailed victim stories. They were betrayed, treated badly, their ex was crazy, their old friends were disloyal. Their situation was uniquely unfair. They show themselves as either the wronged party or the person who kindly chose to leave lower quality connections. The story always puts them as innocent or better. But when truly defeated, when their usual defenses have been so weakened that they cannot keep the standard story going, something different comes out. The narcissist starts talking about how they lost themselves, how they became someone they did not recognize, how they hurt someone who did not deserve it. They might post vague but surprisingly self-critical thoughts on social media. They tell people they are working on themselves in ways that suggest there was really something to work on. Now, let me be very clear about what this is and what it is not. This is not real change. This is not the narcissist suddenly finding true self-awareness and starting real healing. What this is a narcissist whose usual defensive stories have been so fully broken that they are forced to use a new one. And the new story they pick is one that involves partly admitting fault. Why would they do this? Because complete denial in the face of clear proof has become impossible. Too many people saw the truth. The drop in functioning was too clear. The defeat was too complete.